Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there who wants to find us, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. You can also find me at Justin Bizzarro. Again, that's 2 Z's, 2 R's. You can also find the community that we've built for everyone. The requests I've listened. It's taken me a long time to get there, but there is the food and beverage entrepreneur community, including farmers, hospitality entrepreneurs as well, nutrition entrepreneurs. It's all been set up. That is free. It is on social media. And then there are the networking events and summits that everyone suggested through surveys and feedback to do as an add-in. So there is that. And then there is social media as well. For Facebook, there is a group for everyone to go to who's interested in that, and that is free as well. With that all being said, I'm going to jump right into it. I've Jennie Blackwood of Social Graze with us from California. How are you doing today?
I am fabulous. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. This is quite a creative concept you've come up with. It's quite a creative idea. I'm going to anchor it for the audience because I think there's obviously a journey to get here. So let's just talk about background. Little Jennie, how'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? And sort of this journey to create this very cool concept and what I would call the ability to create a lot of independence for an owner of this concept.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, going back to little Jennie, fun fact, I'm adopted. My bio mom had me when she was 16 years old. I was immediately placed with a family who, I honestly hit the family jackpot. And I think that I grew up with two very hardworking people. You know, my mom was a teacher at my local high school, and my dad was a sheriff for a local sheriff's department. And they taught me just a lot about hard work, but I don't know if it's the Capricorn in me or what, but I have always felt like I was intended to be an entrepreneur. You know, there's been things throughout my life. I would actually consider myself serial entrepreneur 9 years after taking the first leap. But for me, it's like an addiction at this point, and some things work and some things don't. But for me, with the charcuterie bar, how I got into that was I originally had been married to somebody. It just wasn't a good fit. We got a divorce, and then my life kind of got to start all over again. I met an amazing guy, and I had not had kids previously. We started having kids, and for me, I was like, oh gosh, motherhood is hard. You know, it's the best thing that you ever do, but it's tough, and you lose a lot of yourself. And so I think by baby number 2, I was really missing that part of me that existed prior to motherhood. So I had seen something similar on Instagram to a charcuterie bar, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is like something that I need to do. Once I have the second baby, I can really just like get out on the weekends, do something that still exercises my adult brain, feel good about bringing in some extra income. And so I got the support of my husband, and we started building the cart and whatnot. It was a very tedious process getting it up and running. It took me a couple of months.
Yeah, let's talk about that, like building the cart and the idea and taking this concept and building it into your own, taking it from a vision to actually a tangible dream, which is what happens, right?
So. Yeah, it was really crazy. It was so difficult because it's a very uncharted territory, you know, and when you try to get anything started in the food world, everybody knows it's like very difficult, right? There's a lot of licensing and permits and health departments that can get all freaked out about things. And because this is kind of like a new category that didn't really fit into like the mobile food truck realm, but they weren't quite sure it was catering either. It was tough. Like, it was really hard to make this dream a reality, but I pushed through, and then it was just really taking it step by step, you know, and I'd hit a dead end, and I would pick myself back up, pivot. I think that being an entrepreneur, you are constantly pivoting. But funny enough, by the time I actually got all of my I's dotted and T's crossed, I worked my first event, and I had my baby 3 days later. So that was really inconvenient, as you can imagine.
Yeah, always. I can't imagine, but yeah. No, I mean, I can imagine the convenience, but I know I've never had a baby, so I can't imagine working and carrying that and everything. So that's a whole other thing. Talk to me about building the business model, like reaching out to people, finding business, because I would say the government in some ways, the health inspectors don't know exactly where to put it. It's also,
Yeah.
you're creating a new industry in a lot of ways. You're creating a new niche in business, even though it is catering, even though it is mobile, and it is food. I think you're creating something that's very unique, and it's very easy, not from the standpoint of getting started, but for someone to bring in additional income and get started with your tips. Because I think you've learned a lot of lessons that benefit others, and that's what you're giving
Absolutely.
away also. So I guess let's go back a little bit and let's talk about that on ramping, getting business, talking about the concepts, getting people to believe in it, bringing it in as part of their events.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I would say that for me, I genuinely thought this was just going to be a little hobby. But when I took this business model to social media, everything exploded. But like in a way that I still look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? Like in the best way possible. But I would say that I give a lot of my success to social media. It's the cheapest form of advertising that exists today, right? You get in front of the biggest number of people. But if you can just put, like, you have this concept, this charcuterie, this bottomless charcuterie concept is so cool. People want to elevate their events. You've got that box checked. But what it comes down to is people don't know what they don't know. And for me, taking it to social media, I want to say my first reel had like over 1 million views. It went crazy viral. But that's because, the concept is so well received. But what I would say for people doing this is that making sure that you have a consistent plan with your social media is huge. You want to make sure that you understand how even like boosting a reel, a good looking reel that really like tells your story crystal clear, how can you boost that for even just $5 a day to make sure that you are being seen by a local target audience? That's how I started booking so many events, because I don't know if a lot of people realize that when you put a reel out there, it can be amazing, but the algorithm's going to show it to anyone and everyone. It doesn't mean that it's going to show it to people who could actually be a customer. And so understanding the concept of not just putting pretty pictures up on social media, but how to really make social media work for you instead of you working for social media is imperative to your success. You will book events. Like, this is a very cool thing. If people know you're out there, you're going to be busy. But it's just, for me, the social media piece was like very integral in getting up and running and having the success that I did.
Yeah, it's even more important now. And everyone that uses social media, I think one of the things that we're seeing now is the ability to pick up on the consistency, to pick up on. And then if you can help the AI or the algorithm understand your audience by paying for it, by pointing it in a direction, it helps ultimately in the organic growth as well. Everyone, it's just part of the equation now. If you can help guide it faster,
Yep.
it's a lot better versus it trying to have to figure it out on its own, because you already know your target audience. Going on the app, it has no idea. And even that's who's liking you, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the audience that's going to do business with you. I think those are very important things that you said. And it starts to take off. How do you get control of it? How do you sort of manage this now? You're like, okay, has real legs to it. It's a viable option for moving forward in business and could have a lot of success. So how do you go the route of building more carts? Do you go the route of booking events? Like, talk to me about the strategy here, because it is kind of a quick uptake on social media.
Totally. Short-windedly, I had to get another cart within 30 days. I mean, it was bananas. I was having people wanting to book on the same days, and who wants to say no to business when you just start a business? And so, kind of rewinding a little bit, I mentioned I worked my first event after going through this process to get everything up and running, and I had a baby 3 days later. I say now that it's one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because I don't know if at the time I understood how truly scalable this business was. It was something where I had to immediately get on Facebook, start posting, hey, here's this really cool new thing that I just started. I have events booked out. This was April at the time. I have events booked out through October at this point. I really need help. I had a toddler at home and this brand new baby. And so I immediately got a big roster of people who were like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so cool. And the events, by the way, are only 2 hours long. So it's like not something serious that somebody is committing to. And so I got this roster of people. And I had all these events that I was booking because of social media. And really, I was able to scale this business from behind the scenes. I hired the right people, and we grew and grew and grew this business. But I was able to be a mom. I was able to be home with my toddler and my baby and still make this empire that I never again could have imagined that it would have gotten to. So I think that, for anybody in any type of position, it's like, well, how big can I grow this? Like I'm a 9-to-5 worker. I'm a stay-at-home mom. The scalability is huge. You can keep it as small or as big as you want. But I mean that when I say, even with hardly advertising, I needed a new cart within 30 days. And so I think that, when you say how big can you get this, and when you're on social media, like what are the options? I mean, it's endless. You could get as many carts as you want. There will be people to work it. It's just this business model that allows flexibility, but you don't have to be in the front lines. You can do it from behind the scenes. It's really amazing.
Talk to me about how like you open up a funnel. You're now having to keep track of all the contacts, all the events, all the stuff. So you're having to build organization systems, databases, maybe. I don't know how you're doing all of it, but I do know when something like this happens, you have to build infrastructure, structure, stability quickly. Talk to me about doing all that, because you're with your second child, right? As all of this is really starting to take off, you're doing your first event. You have to build another cart in 30 days. Talk to me about infrastructure building, like sort of mindset for you personally, because there's a gift here or something that's developed over time that I want to focus on.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm kind of old school in a lot of ways. I know that there are all kinds of techie platforms out there, but for me, I really tried to keep things very organic. I felt like it gave me a better opportunity to actually book events. So like, as opposed to getting this like amazing website built and having this contact form or even an online booking calendar, I felt like I was going to lose people. I wanted people to contact me directly, either through social media or email, because it allowed me to really like let my personality of the business shine through and to really show them what it would be like to work an event with me. I mean, I literally had like a pencil to paper type of calendar. At first, I was also using Google Calendar just to make sure that I didn't lose anything. But for me, it was like people would say, hey, I'm really interested in having you at, my wedding. Can you give me a quote for this many people? And then you get to start asking questions. You get to be excited with them, and you get to say things like, oh my gosh, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. We'd love to be a part of this special day. Here's what this would entail. And you kind of like create this little bond because you did it organically. I am really like grassroots when it comes to stuff like that. I don't want to lose people to tech. So if that, if that makes sense to you guys, I just think, especially when you're first starting out and you're really trying to get your name out there, and ultimately you are your brand. If you think about it, with this charcuterie bar, there's nothing that I'm serving food wise that is groundbreaking. In fact, it's less than gourmet, to be honest. I shop at Costco, Sam's Club, and Walmart a lot of the time. It's not the food that people are buying into, it's the experience, and you are part of that experience. So I think from like contact point number one, that's always been my strategy, is to stay a lot more organic with it.
Yeah, I love this. There's a couple things I'm going to emphasize. One is carts in general. Marriott, the hotel chain, started off as, I can't remember if it was a hamburger cart or a taco cart or what kind of cart it was. But either way, it was a cart in the airport. I usually can remember off the top of my head, but that's how Marriott started. The next generation got into hotels. First generation was in food service. Bob's Big Boy, Roy Rogers, carts in airports, food service, rest stops, all the things that are now what would be Sodexo or Fiat, who's also the car company. They own those pieces of Marriott now. And there were a lot of other pieces broken up that ended up in a lot of other places. But that's one. Number two is Danny Meyer, however you want to say it. My pronunciation's terrible on names sometimes. But he was doing a bunch of fine dining restaurants. He got the opportunity to open a hot dog cart, in the park. to revitalize, I don't remember, I think it was Madison Square Park, but it eventually got to Bryant Park and saw an actual Shack. But either way, all of the things are the same. The opportunities are there. All of these companies, guys, were built off of similar things. It's finding something, building something successful on it, sticking within that niche, and then leveraging it. And now there's how many Shake Shacks around the world, how many Marriott hotels off of a cart, start as a cart. Yeah. This is also, I'm just going to say this for Marriott purposes. Marriott went to Coca-Cola to help him out with a loan for his food businesses, since that they were in the business of doing that then to help businesses get off the ground, because they wanted them to carry Coca-Cola products, but they didn't give them a loan. So now only at Marriott hotels can you generally get Pepsi products. Generally, I mean, if they're not sticking to brand standards, then yeah, you'll find it there. Other products outside the Pepsi avenue, same Frito-Lays, it's got to all stay in that avenue. But yeah, so interesting. But I wanted to say that because there's more. The carts, I think what you're on to is the simplicity of the process. One of the things I also like about it is from a food safety standpoint, not like I think about this every time I go out, but when you are at events and you are at weddings or you are at things, the charcuterie board gets the most hands on it. People tend to touch it. People tend to use spoons. People tend to drop stuff. You have toothpicks. So if there's an assistance there that goes on there, it is just a much better performance and display of it. I would call it it's the showmanship of it that's the most important part, because otherwise it takes away from the food at your event. It becomes something that's not handled properly, and because there's so many pieces everywhere, it gets scattered everywhere. And it's just like one of the things doing catering over the years and events, you're just always like, oh my gosh, how do I control this beast? And so the way you're doing it, to me, is it's a solution, but it's also it ties up an event so much better than just having a charcuterie area or an appetizer area. Talk to me about. I
couldn't agree more.
Talk to me about prep. How do you do it? You talked a little bit about shopping. Is different clients request different types of charcuterie boards, so you have different options. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the range of menu items and then how you prep everything.
Yeah, love that. And you're so right, just like hitting on what you were just saying, like with health departments and whatnot. That's why I have to laugh, because I am coaching people throughout the United States in all different states, counties, you name it, in getting this business up and running. And so I'm dealing with a lot of different health departments. And it's so funny because they're trying to stick the charcuterie board people into this weird, like, mobile category. However, we're all serving prepackaged, pre-cooked foods, right? So I'm like, you guys apply as a caterer, because that's ultimately what you're doing. You know, you are a caterer. There's nothing different from you than the person who brings a charcuterie board to somebody's house or comes to somebody's house and builds this big grazing table on their kitchen island. In fact, we are doing it much more sanitary. You know, it's like, there is no contamination because every item gets its own commercial grade stainless steel hotel pan, right? There's individual tongs. People aren't touching the same things. They get individual serving portions. And so it's funny because it's almost like we're kind of crusading to make the charcuterie world, when it comes to catering, more sanitary. And you would think that the health departments would be all about that. But I think, like we said before, it's just such a new concept. It's kind of, nobody's figured it out yet. So that is like a crusade of mine. But you mentioned how to food prep, what foods. Everybody so far, with my experience, I've worked with a lot of states and a lot of different people, you're required to have a commissary kitchen. So it's approved by the health department. And then when you go in and apply for this catering permit, you know, they want to make sure that you're going to be prepping out of a commercial grade approved location. So that's just something to know when starting this business. They're not crazy expensive. There's ways to find kind of out of the box commissary type kitchens that work as well. But it's just something, it's like, you know, I hate to say this, but this is how I explain it the best to clients. They're like, well, why do I have to get a commissary? I said, well, it's kind of one of those things where a few people ruin it for all of us. You know, it's like the food and beverage industry has to be incredibly regulated, because would you want the person who like lives at home, has a cat, the cat just used the cat box and walked across the counter and then they're cutting the cheese and the meats on top of that countertop? No, you want it to be done somewhere where it's regulated. And so for that reason, you know, we all have to adhere to these rules, but it makes sense, right? To your other question, like what foods make the most sense? When I started this, I was like trying to be really fancy. I was trying to go very gourmet. I was offering things like brie and prosciutto and, things that just felt elevated. But a lot of the gourmet stuff, one, it's super expensive, which is going to cut into your profit. But two, it doesn't keep well. Like prosciutto gets like a very strange color after a short amount of time, even if it's being cooled. Brie just glops together. It's just not like a good look. So I honestly decided to get a lot more simplified. That's why it's like my stuff is like basic. It's cheddar, it's Monterey Jack, it's pepper jack, it's salami, fruits, cheeses, nuts, that type of thing. But people still love it. It still looks pretty on a board, but it also makes you a lot more profitable not going the gourmet route.
Let me ask a question. I assume that you don't most of your time's focused on building the brand, training new. Are they franchisees? Like, how's your model set up? Is it operators? Is it licensing? I guess that's a question, but most of your time I have to assume is in that realm now, not actually doing events with the cart.
Yeah. So lucky for me that I do have that team of people when it comes to the events, to where when we book stuff, I just know I have a tried and true team at this point that can just get it to the finish line, get out and get it done. For me, I feel like I had a bigger calling, and that is helping other people start this business too. I've seen the benefits that it's had in my own life. When I first launched this, the craziest thing was that I just had people coming all like out of the woodworks from all over the place. And they were saying, "Hey, how can I do this? How can I do this?" And from the tumultuous process I had just gone through, my instinct was, okay, well, I'm going to at least make people like a 30-day launch guide. Here's everything you need from start to finish, so that people didn't have to have all the question marks, the costly trial and error, and the waste of time that I spent trying to get my own business up and running. So I started with the guide, and a lot of people do purchase that guide. This is a dream that people really desire to get to the finish line. But what I found is that of all the people who really hope to do this, a very small percentage were actually getting it to the finish line. And I think it's because it is a bit of a difficult process. And so where I have gone now is I do offer that guide along with a couple others that are really helpful. But for people who are really looking for more of like a coaching experience, going to an expert where I can not only hand you the keys to the successes of this business, but give you all the do's, the don'ts. I walk people through the catering permit process, the business licensing process. It's a lot to get up and running. And so for this coaching program, it's 10 weeks now. So people are enrolling, and I am literally helping them take their dream to a reality through all the weeds. But then once we get through the hard part, I tell everybody the first 4 weeks is very not glamorous. The second half is really fun. I teach you how to be a social media master. I teach you how to run seamless events. What supplies are most essential? How do you food prep most efficiently? What do you do when challenges come up? But then the end of the program, we really start talking about something that you were mentioning with Marriott. We start talking about scaling the heck out of the business. It doesn't have to just stop at charcuterie bar carts. This one wooden cart that is not very expensive to make or have built can be so many different streams of revenue. It's crazy. So it's like when you have a bride come to you, for instance, and she says, "Hey, I really want this charcuterie bar at my cocktail hour." You're like, "Okay, great. Does your venue also offer bartenders? Because if not, like, we can offer a bartending service, and you buy all the alcohol. There will be no premiums. We just show up. We give the bartenders a really cute cart. We bring the garnishes, the mixers, the straws, the cups, the ice. We make sure that people are having a good time. They're not overserved, and we take it all off your plate. We could package that up if you want." And then the bride's like, "Oh my gosh, yes, that'd be great." But then why couldn't you take it even further and say, "Hey, does the groom like cigars? We have a cigar bar." Or, "Hey, we have this really cute, trendy new coffee cart. How about during dancing, we bring the coffee cart and we keep people up and moving and we make cute custom coffees." It's like your options with this cart are truly limitless. And so that's something else that I teach in the program, because I don't want to just teach you how to be a successful charcuterie bar owner. I want to teach you to be a successful small business owner, a marketing machine, things that you can take well beyond this venture, but you can grow the heck out of this one.
I love it. This is so cool. I think what you're doing and what you're doing for a lot of individuals out there to get into their own business, to create their own freedom, their own legacy, have something that they can get started, because an idea is hard, but if you have the drive to be an entrepreneur and the ideas aren't coming, definitely this is a way of doing it. I like this a lot. travel, stuff like that? Because I've got to imagine, and you have kids and you're managing a family now. Talk to me about balance of all of it. How
Yeah.
are you keeping balance in your family, in your business, in your life right now? Because it is growing at such a rapid rate.
Yeah. And I will say I have 4 kids. I have 2 stepdaughters too. So I have 2 stepdaughters, and then I have a 9-month-old and a 2-year-old, so there's a lot going on in my life. But the thing about this business and why it's so attractive to me and attractive to others is because it is something that you can completely work around your family, your schedule. And for me, like I keep mentioning, I've gotten to a point where I don't even have to work the events. I can take that kind of high level CEO standpoint where I just make sure that the wheels are turning. But because of that, I'm not only being able to be with my family, I'm bringing in great income on top of it. So, and it's something that you actually enjoy. Like I have a passion for this. You get out, you get to be around people. You're constantly getting praise, of people saying, this is the coolest idea. I'm so, I love this so much. I can't believe I've never thought of this. But all while you get all of that, it's like you get to make the business what you want of it. So for me, it's like I can't think of a better opportunity with having a family and a crazy life. I can completely work everything about this business around my family, which is my number one.
Absolutely. Obviously that's important. And let's talk about influence. You talked about your parents growing up, being adopted. Let's talk about influence, ambition, inspiration, getting knocked down, getting back up, because you've experienced all of those things. I think that's part of the reason that this opportunity is working the way that it is, because of these skills or ups and downs that you've went through. Let's talk about mentorship, guidance, ambition, the fuel that keeps the fire going.
Yeah. It's funny. I found myself starting to say this to my 2-year-old this last week, actually. He started to be able to say the words, I can't do it. And my response has been, you can do anything you put your mind to, because that was the tools that I was given when I was growing up. I had parents that told me, you can do anything you put your mind to. And to this day, that sticks with me. And I really believe that. People look at me and they go, oh, you've built this whole thing. And I'm like, but there's nothing special about me. In fact, everything that I have going on are like odds against me instead of in my favor. But the thing that I have that I think some people just struggle to find within themselves is I just don't give up. If I hit a roadblock, I find a pivot, because I believe that I can do anything that I put my mind to. I have the grit and the determination. But the thing is I wanted to change my circumstances. Before I started this business, my husband makes decent money, but we have a lot going on. And I was so sick and tired of feeling like we were strapped, like we couldn't plan that vacation we wanted to go on, that we couldn't I couldn't buy a new vase for the flowers if I wanted one, those types of things. And I thought, you know what? I could sit here and accept the situation, or I can do something about it. And so that's why, I chose to put my mind to something and not give up on myself. And I think that if other people realize that if they just believed in themselves more and gave themselves a chance, one of the biggest business, mantras that I have is that the risk and the reward, when you think about that, is not taking the risk scarier, or is taking the risk, giving yourself a chance, and then finding out maybe it wasn't for you. It's, for me, not taking the risk is 1,000 times scarier, because you never know what's sitting on the other side. If I had just thought, I'm pregnant, I have kids, I can't do this, this is too much for me, I don't have the energy, I never would have gotten to the point where I'm at today. So if I can encourage anybody listening to this, listen to that, believe that. If you can take a risk and know that you're not going to lose your house and you're still going to be able to put food on the table, is that a risk worth taking? In my opinion, it is. Give yourself a chance.
Yeah, I love it. I think there's a lot here in terms of effort. I think there's a lot here in terms of the charcuterie cart just being the beginning, like you discussed earlier. There's a lot of options here. Ability for caterers to offer more. Your ability to export knowledge. I think that's a key thing. I think that is what is asked of us in our human purpose, in any way we look at it, is to grow the next generation, or a generation of humans, or the humans near us more than ourselves. And I think that that's what you're doing. You got a skill set, and instead of trying to consume it all to yourself, the the gift that you're given also is your ability to be a servant leader and that give others the opportunity to build their lives as well. And I think that that's important to any business out there, like a sustainable business, a truly sustainable business. Yes, it has good culture. Yes, does it pay well, have all the benefits that we look at the corporate world? Sure. But the ones that really last have this culture that's ingrained in stuff like we're talking about right here, this thing that makes the very essence of it, that gives freedom, that has a greater purpose. These are the businesses that have longevity in the future. If you go to countries outside the United States that have businesses that have been around hundreds of years, sometimes thousands, depending on it, you look at the family legacies in a lot of cases that built the business. That's what we're talking about. They invested in their communities. They invested in their families. They grew the world around them. They were involved in their communities more so than just a corporation normally would be that has longevity. Why didn't they get bought up and by someone? It's not that they're not valuable. It's just that when your culture's that strong, when your business is that strong, it's hard to take something that has such a bright personality, such a bright being, and bring it into an organization that doesn't have one.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I think what we're talking about here is the food, the cart is the vehicle for you to do your calling, which I think is, I can just feel it. I feel it on the internet. I feel it on social media. I can feel it, energy that anywhere you touch does it. So I'm going to anchor it now instead of later. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, on the internet and stuff like that? Just because I want everyone to look as we continue the conversation.
Absolutely. The best place to find me with the most resources is going to be our friend Instagram. And my username is socialgraze.charcuterie. So there you can find all about the business, resources. I mentioned the guides. There is also the opportunity to be able to apply for my coaching program. So there's a lot of different ways to work with me. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like I feel like my calling is helping others start this business, and helping them start this business and change their lives. When you think about starting your own business, you probably see massive dollar signs, but I can tell you that getting into this business is incredibly low cost compared to most. And the profits are high. It is just, I can't stress it enough. And you'll, like you just said, you can feel it exude through my content, but it's the truth. And so for me, I feel like I've been given this platform because I'm seeing the ripple effect that it's having across, honestly, the world. I mean, my coaching program's only offered in the United States, but my guides are sold worldwide. And I will tell you, the number one client that comes to me, especially within my coaching program, are 9-to-5 workers who are sick of what they do. They're sick of the 9-to-5 grind. They're sick of pouring themselves into somebody else's business to only, at the end of the day, be replaceable. It's not, there's no job security in that. But when you own your own business and you love it and you're passionate about it and you work hard for it, the only thing not replaceable is you. So everybody has their own why. I get very, very invested in people's why behind this journey. I have somebody in New York right now who I just think of her nonstop. She's this young mom of 2 under 2, and she's working late night at grocery stores to make ends meet. And for her, this is like going to change the game. So when I think of these people that I work with, it's like, there is no opportunity to fail. I'm not going to let you fail. It's important to me. And I get very involved with the people that I work with. But if you are somebody who wants to work with me, finding me on Instagram is the best place to start.
Awesome. I love it. Building your brand now, building out the internet, the advertising, the marketing. I don't know if you have a background in it, assuming, but maybe not, but you've collected it together in a way that's very deliverable, very palatable. Can you talk to me about the strategy? I mean, advertising, marketing, PR, sales are all different categories. I keep emphasizing that for food entrepreneurs. All of them are different categories. You have to have different specialties in each of them, but you seem to have locked them in sort of in a way that works for you. Can you talk about strategically for the audience how you sort of got this to move forward? I mean, Reels help, definitely getting eyeballs on you, but let's talk about overall strategy there because you're very good at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And to answer your question, yes, I do have a marketing background. So that has come in handy. But that's what I'm teaching others too. I would say outside of like the obvious with social media, and then we talked a little bit about boosting reels to have some paid strategy involved. It's really being able to dial down on who your target audiences are. Think about this. So, brides or corporations, they have deep pockets and they have high guest counts. And so, when you think about the audience that you could go to that's going to get you the most bang for your buck out of that 2 hour event, that's where I would start. Really start looking in your local area, find event planners, find wedding expos. Go on LinkedIn, create yourself a great LinkedIn page for your charcuterie bar. Go find business owners or HR managers. Just shoot your shot. It's like the worst you can hear is no. But again, I'll say it 1,000 times. People don't know what they don't know. So it's your job to get yourself out there. Think out of the box. Go to real estate agents. Say, hey, for your next brokers open or for your next open house, like find luxury realtors, ask if you can be a part of it. Because every event that you go to is gaining exposure, valuable exposure. So you're going to show up, you're going to have your business cards, you're going to make sure that you capitalize on every single event so that you are just spreading the word about yourself and your services like wildfire. But then you're going to have the baby showers, the bridal showers, and those are all great too. But at the end of the day, you want to go where the money's at, right? You're in this because you love it, but you also want to make money at the end of the day. So just make sure when you are really sitting down, like pen to paper, thinking of who are my target audiences? Who do I know within my own network? Let's start there. Maybe you know somebody who owns a business or is like the CEO somewhere or a manager or somebody who could just get your foot in the door. That's where you have to start. Use social media as a big piece of the pie, but also don't be afraid to utilize your own network and then just market the heck out of yourself at any event that you do get. I will say, lastly, when it comes to like a prepaid event, obviously that's what you want, right? That's what's going to get you money in your pocket, guaranteed. You know the guest count, you know how many people to shop for. That feels good. But the other piece of it is attending different type of pop-ups, going to wineries or breweries or farmers markets or places where your local community will exist and get excited about you. It's a place to hand out business cards or flyers or whatever you have to advertise yourself. The thing about pop-ups that you're just going to have to know is that there is no guaranteed guest count most often. You may buy too much or too little food. But what you're doing is you're getting marketing exposure. Don't expect to get rich at pop-ups, but do expect to have it be a valuable marketing opportunity. Those types of things, again, within your local community are going to be key to your success in booking events.
Absolutely. I love it. But this will be my last question for you, I think. I may come up with another one, but building relationships is important to you. It's one of the things that I think I can clearly see as one of your superpowers. You build long-term relationships. You build relationships you're passionate about. You're passionate about building relationships with those you coach with and consult with. Talk to me a little bit about that building of relationships.
For me, it's funny you say that. I just took one of those strengths and personality tests, and my number one strength is called woo, and that's winning others over. And so for me, it's a natural strength. It's something where when I meet someone new, like it's like a challenge for me. I want to get to know them. I want to hear everything about them. I want to form a connection with them. But when you're like that, what it allows you to do is create bonds with people that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. You don't know who you're talking to, right? Let's just say you're at a party. You start talking to some random person. What if they end up being somebody that could be really amazing for you within your own business? A good Pied Piper, or maybe there's somebody who would hire you out, or somebody, oh my gosh, I know the manager of this large hotel chain. Maybe they could get you in for all of their customer happy hours or whatever. It's like just being able to talk to people, talk about what you do, be excited about what you do, and just form relationships. I just had a coaching call right before this, and that was exactly what she was saying. She's somebody who is incredibly well connected. She just got a major opportunity on a consistent basis with her charcuterie bar, but it's because she's not afraid to talk to people. She wants to network. She wants to form relationships, and that is a big piece of advice when it comes to having a successful business. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Get to know everyone because you never know what they might bring to your life.
Yeah, absolutely. talk to me about, I think this is a question I get as well. So it's somewhat staged because I think I know your answer, but I'm not positive. But when this is what I get a lot. People don't jump at the coaching or the mentorship or the whatever you want to call it, sponsorship, however you want to look at it, because they don't know how to get started. They don't know how to prepare. How do I prepare to the first meeting? How do I get started? What do I need to do? How successful do I need to be? What does my business need to be at for me to start a coach? Where does my idea need to be? Do I need to have X amount? So I kind of threw a lot out there, obviously, but those are sort of all the questions I get a lot of the time. So I'm sure it's the same for you in your specific area. Let's talk about that. Like, what does a person need to get coaching from you? Mentorship.
Yeah. So I would say that so what I do is I actually have an application for the coaching program. So it leads them through a lot of different questions that make you stop and think, is this really the right opportunity for you? And for the people who do get passed on, they get a link to book a discovery call. So within that discovery call, what I find is there's a lot of like excited but nervous people. I've never started my own business. I don't know if I can do this. I'm worried I'm going to fail. People who are scared to take the risk. And so they come to this discovery call to really understand what the coaching program can do for them. How can it take them from having this dream and turn it into a charcuterie bar reality within 10 weeks? And so when they do this, we go through it and we make sure it's a good fit. And if it is, my favorite thing is I actually really like it when people just come to me with the dream. Yes, I know that I want to do this. Okay, perfect. Because then I can help mold you and help you throughout the process from literally step one. When somebody decides to be a coaching client, we immediately start sending out all kinds of different goodies via email. And one of them is this prep sheet that says, you know nothing at this point, and that's perfect. Here's everything I want you to do and research. And they go down a list. And by the time we have our first one-on-one call, they are coming to that first meeting armed and dangerous. And it's from there that we really take their unique goals and where they want to take this business. We lay the foundation and we're off to the races. So nobody has to come to this with any prior experience. All they have to do is want this and believe in themselves. And then let us take care of the rest. It's like you're coming to an expert to teach you how to start this business and find success. You are taking out the guesswork. You're taking out the costly trial and error. You have a major support system, not just from me or the other coaches, but each session forms its own tribe. There's about 15 people in each coaching session. And by the end, you guys are like best friends. And so the support is there. The accountability is there. The knowledge, the expertise, it's all there. So you can come to this opportunity with just a dream and we'll take it from there.
What an interesting set of skills that has been given to you, a teacher, a shepherd, like an apostle. You're out there blazing a trail. It's a cool group of skills and seeds that have been planted in you that are growing up. I'm glad I get to witness it. It's one of those things where, as an entrepreneur, when there's entrepreneurial magic going on in the world and growth in the world around where that growth is going on, it's just a beautiful thing to watch, for sure.
Thank you so much.
The test that has led to your testimony, for sure, along the path, the ups and downs. If you could tell yourself anything now that you wish you knew before starting this business as you were starting it, what would it be?
I think about this all the time. Like, I look back on the girl that was huge, pregnant, tired, who was burning the midnight oil, staying up until 11 o'clock at night, trying to research, trying to fill out applications. And I look back at her and I'm like, I'm just so proud of you for sticking with it. Like, I'm just so proud of you for getting to that point where you gave yourself a chance to become what you are now. It's like, it's kind of a trip, when they tell you to like write a letter to your little girl self or your little boy self, it's just like, I think about it all the time. I'm so grateful to myself for giving myself the opportunity. I'm grateful for not giving up. And I'm truly grateful that I now have this platform that I can give to other people, and thank you for all the really, really kind things that you just said. Helping others is my biggest passion in life and my biggest driving force. So for anybody even just listening to this podcast, if this just even gives you inspiration, like I feel like my job is done. So Justin, thank you for having me a part of this podcast today, because it's just the more I can crusade this message out to others, the better I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, is there anything else you want to add in? Anything that you feel the audience as a whole, or something that's calling to you that you feel you need to say out loud as we sort of bring the episode to an end?
Yes, and that is that it is never too late to reinvent yourself. And take that from me. Okay. I was married before. I got divorced at 34. I got remarried at 36. I had my first baby at 37. I had my second baby at 39. I started this business at 39. There is no path you have to take. You have to be able to give yourself the keys to follow your dreams and realize that, I waited too long. No, you didn't. There is no better time to start than now. Take that from me. Get rid of your limiting beliefs. Get rid of your self-doubt and understand that you have what it takes. Give yourself a chance. There is never a better time than now. If you remember nothing from this call, remember that. It is okay to reinvent yourself. And I hope that if this message today means anything to you, that you will take any road that will better your life. I hope that you got that message out of today.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to ask you to come back on in a few months, continue to tell your story. I definitely want to talk about the coaching and the inspiration. And the audience, I just want to emphasize this. This is what you guys were asking for: diversity of knowledge, access to coaches, people doing things that could help you, instead of creating ideas, come up with ideas and find freedom. There's a lot of, I'll call you guys wannabe entrepreneurs. You're on the cusp. You have the desire. You just don't know how to do it. Or maybe you don't have an idea or something. There's a lot of people out there that have created ideas for you in very cost effective ways and then support you along the way. Okay. And then if you're in the business and you guys reach out and ask for coaching and I don't have the capacity, there's other resources that are out there that can help you guys do it and give you fellowship and all the things we're talking about. We just talked about how getting coaching here in this instant leads to fellowship, and I think that that's important for everyone. Jennie builds a program. It's not only about the coaching, it's about the fellowship, having one another, and then having her as a resource or her business or her ideas. That is how we grow. It's not out of the ordinary. When she says 15 people, of course, that's how we need to have impact. All of us think impact is in such large scales, but it's in bite-sized pieces. The elephant is eaten one bite at a time, guys. Pun intended. We're in the food industry. So that's what we learned here today also, is that stay consistent, build your skills. You never know what skills are going to become available when we talked about hardship. So we got toughness, mental toughness, physical toughness, spiritual toughness out of this. Jennie then turns that into a new life. She also has marketing skills. Those things stacked into what they are today. Why did they stack? Because she can give and grow the world with the skill. That's the ultimate purpose, is how can we help the humans ultimately around us? That's when our abundance comes, as entrepreneurs in particular, when we serve and we provide solutions and we grow individuals, or what I call pollinate the individuals in that process. So it's important. So thank you, Jennie, so much. Is there anything you want to say on what I just said before we sign off?
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with everything you just said. Don't be afraid to seek out an expert in something that you want to do. Look at professional athletes. I mean, they have professional coaches. It's just, don't feel like you have to get lost inside of yourself. Allow yourself to have resources. I think I love how you said you're pollinating, as being a coach. So yeah, I just really appreciate you, Justin. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to get this message out to people. I think it's an important one for people to hear. And if it even changes the life of somebody on this call, we did our job, right? So I appreciate you and thank you for inviting me here today.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. And then one last time, where can they find you online, social media, reach out to you for coaching?
Yes, reach out to me on Instagram at socialgraze.charcuterie. My link in bio not only has a link to various resources, but it also has the application to apply for my Cart to Cash Flow coaching program.
Awesome. I'll put all the information in the notes, everyone, just so everyone knows. It'll be in the episode notes. You'll have all the information, how to reach out and everything like that. I do recommend everyone who's reaching out for coaches, needing ideas, starting off on a small scale. This is an avenue to start. This one of the reasons I followed and chased down and wanted Jennie on the podcast, because I'm like, there's real solutions out there. I don't have all the answers, but I can be a facilitator for you guys, or a connector of the pieces that I can do for you guys. That's sort of my calling. So that's what I'm doing here. Also, that's what you guys were asking for. And not to mention, what an amazing food entrepreneur, right? So Jennie, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for what you're doing, the jobs you're creating, the freedom, the entrepreneurism, the freedom in the marketplace, all of that. So everyone in the audience, you're very welcome. And everyone in the audience, I love you guys, and we're out.